You are standing in a market in Boston. It is July. The year is 1806. The air is thick, the kind of heat that makes your shirt cling to your back and doubles every smell coming off the harbor. And a man is standing behind a wooden cart, trying to sell you a block of ice. Not from a cellar, not from a frozen lake buried underground since January. Fresh, clear, hard ice, cut from a Massachusetts pond 3 days ago, sitting in a July afternoon, sweating but solid, defying the sun. You stare at it. Everyone stares at it. Because for the entire history of your species, this should not be possible. Cold was something that happened to you. You could not make it. You could not carry it. You could not set it down in a tropical market and expect it to still be there. And yet, here it is. And the man selling it is about to restructure human civilization. Nobody knows that yet. Most of them think he is insane. So how did humans invent the cold? Answer stretches across 3,000 years, 4 continents, and one extremely stubborn man from Boston. And it starts much older than anyone expects. For roughly 295,000 years of human existence, cold was not a product. It was a condition. It arrived with the season. It left with the season. You endured it or you did not. The earliest evidence of deliberate ice harvesting comes from China. The Shijing, compiled between the 11th and 7th centuries BC, references workers cutting ice from frozen rivers and storing it in underground pits called Lingyin. The Zhou dynasty employed officials titled Bing-zheng, ice administrators, whose sole job was overseeing collection, storage, and distribution. You needed an entire bureaucracy just to keep a block of ice from melting. That tells you how rare cold was. The Persians went further. Around 400 BC, engineers on the Iranian plateau built yakhchals, cone-shaped structures over 18 meters tall, made from a heat-resistant mortar called sarouj. Using windcatchers, underground water channels, and evaporative cooling, they produced ice in the middle of the desert. In a climate where summer temperatures exceeded 40 degrees Celsius, Persian architects were manufacturing cold, not harvesting it, designing it. But all of this was local, seasonal, fragile. The moment winter ended, the clock started. And the moment your ice melted, your food followed. The radius of your diet was the radius of your geography. Cold was the wall. And then a 22-year-old from a wealthy Boston family had a thought everyone considered absurd. In 1805, Frederic Tudor looked at 2 facts. The tropics had no ice. New England had enormous quantities of it. What if you shipped one to the other? In February 1806, he loaded 130 tons of ice onto a ship called the Favorite and sent it to Martinique. 3 weeks later, the ice arrived. Most of it survived. And the people of Martinique stared at it like it was a miracle, because nobody had ever seen ice in the Caribbean in July. The first shipment was a financial disaster. Tudor had no storage facilities, no distribution network, no customers who understood what ice was for. He lost money, shipped again, lost more, tried Havana, New Orleans, spent years in debtor's prison. The Boston press mocked him. The idea of selling winter to the tropics was treated as the delusion of a man with too much inheritance and too little sense. But Tudor kept going. He realized the problem was not the ice. It was the insulation. He experimented with straw, charcoal, sawdust, settled on sawdust packed tightly around the blocks, designed specialized ice houses at destination ports, trained local workers in handling and distribution, built a supply chain from a frozen pond in Massachusetts to a glass of iced water in a Havana cafe. By the 1830s, the Tudor Ice Company was shipping ice to Cuba, India, Brazil, Australia. By 1856, over 100,000 tons left Boston annually. Tudor became the Ice King. And the world he built, a world where cold could be transported and sold like any commodity, had fundamentally altered humanity's relationship with temperature. But natural ice still depended on winters being cold enough, on ponds freezing thick enough, on rivers staying clean. In the mid-19th century, those dependencies started failing. Winters warmed. Pollution contaminated the ponds. The industry was running on borrowed time. The world needed someone to make cold from scratch. The science had been building. In 1748, William Cullen at the University of Glasgow demonstrated that evaporating a liquid in a partial vacuum produced cooling. He made a small amount of ice, published his findings. did nothing with them. In 1834, Jacob Perkins filed the first patent for vapor compression refrigeration. Compress a gas. It heats. Let it expand. It cools. Run that cycle continuously, and you pump heat from one place to another. You manufacture cold. Perkins built a working prototype. Nobody bought one. The man who made it practical was a Florida doctor named John Gorrie. In 1851, he patented an ice-making machine to cool hospital rooms where yellow fever patients were dying. It worked, but Gorrie had no funding, no backers. He died in poverty in 1855, convinced his invention would save millions. He was right. He just did not live to see it. Think about what that shift means. For 3,000 years, cold was a gift from the sky, something you harvested and prayed would last. Now it was a process, something you switched on, something you ran at 3 in the afternoon in August in Chicago. Cold was no longer a season. It was a technology. And once cold became a technology, everything changed. In 1878, Gustavus Swift hired an engineer to design a refrigerated railroad car, insulated walls, ice compartments at the top, cold air sinking over hanging meat. Within a decade, Swift's fleet delivered fresh beef from Chicago to New York, undercutting every local butcher who relied on seasonal slaughter. In the 1920s, Clarence Birdseye watched the Inuit freeze fish instantly in Labrador and realized fast freezing preserved texture while slow freezing destroyed it. He built an industry. The frozen food aisle exists because a fur trader wondered why fish still tasted good after months in the ice. In 1902, Willis Carrier designed a system to remove humidity from a Brooklyn printing plant. He forced air over cold coils. The moisture condensed. The printing stabilized, and Carrier realized he had not solved a printing problem. He had invented air conditioning. After World War II, window units became affordable. Cities that had been uninhabitable in summer, Phoenix, Houston, Miami, became the fastest growing in America. The Sun Belt was not geography. It was engineering. But here is where the story turns. The refrigerants in early systems were toxic. Ammonia, methyl chloride. In 1929, a leak in a Cleveland hospital killed over 100 people. The industry needed something safe. In 1928, Thomas Migley Jr. synthesized chlorofluorocarbons, non-toxic, non-flammable, stable. He inhaled a lungful and blew out a candle. The audience applauded. Freon became the global standard. 46 years later, Mario Molina and F. Sherwood Rowland published a paper in Nature showing that CFCs destroyed stratospheric ozone. One chlorine atom could destroy over 100,000 ozone molecules. In 1985, the British Antarctic Survey confirmed a massive hole over Antarctica. In 1987, 46 nations signed the Montreal Protocol. CFCs were banned. The same molecule that kept your milk from spoiling was dismantling the atmospheric shield protecting every living thing on Earth. The cold was never just cold. It was always a negotiation with the rest of the world. Tonight, you will open a refrigerator. You will reach inside and pull out something cold. A drink. Leftovers. A piece of fruit that traveled 2,000 kilometers in a refrigerated truck and still looks fresh. You will not think about the Zhou dynasty ice administrators. You will not think about Frederic Tudor sitting in debtor's prison, convinced that frozen water was a business. You will not think about John Gorrie dying broke in Florida. You will not think about Willis Carrier or Clarence Birdseye or the chlorine atom eating the sky. You will just take the cold thing out and use it and close the door. And that, honestly, might be the most human thing about it. We invented the cold, and then we forgot it was ever invented at all.